Hey everybody, welcome to D4 and welcome to my good friend Chris, aka Treant Monk from Treant Monk's Temple. How's it going, Chris?
Very good. How are you, Colby?
I'm great, thanks. You are wearing the same outfit as you were yesterday in the video that we recorded for your channel.
Yeah. How did that occur?
And so am I. So, okay, for those who don't know, we are going over the newest Unearthed Arcana, the Arcane subclasses. Put out by Wizards just a few days ago as of this recording, or yesterday that is, as of this recording. And yeah, we're just gonna do a separate video for each one of the subclasses that are announced here. There's 9, although we're gonna double up on the Wizards when we get there. So there's just gonna be one video every day for a week. Yesterday on Chris's channel, we put out the video on the Arcana Cleric. Check it out over here. And I'll put a link in the video description as well. But today we're going to talk about the Arcane Archer, I would say one of the most beloved subclasses conceptually, and one of the most maligned subclasses mechanically from 2014 when it comes to fighters, I think.
I think it's mostly forgotten at this point,
Yeah,
right? It got filed under not good enough, and it stayed there.
Right.
Yeah. And right now we have to like pick up the file and blow off the dust.
So my first question for you, and I might be undecided on this a little bit until after we dig in here, maybe a little more, but do you think that what's your hot take? Did they do enough in this UA to kind of resurrect it from the dusty bin, or does it still need a little more polish?
I will say that I don't know if it's like we talked about yesterday that the Arcana Cleric was probably near the top in terms of power. This is not at the top in terms of power. This isn't the one that we were referring to.
Yeah.
This is the middle of the pack.
Yeah, it's not the weakest,
but it's the one I'm the most excited to try.
Yeah.
And that counts for a lot.
That's saying something.
Yeah. I also think they did a lot of things right here. So when I look at this, I'm pretty happy with it. I don't think it's super strong, but I don't think it's super weak anymore either. I think it's better than it was.
Yes.
Enough that I would want, and the big pain point of the Arcane Archer, you have ways to deal with that now, and not because the problem with the Arcane Archer, I mean, we'll just say, is it had 2 shots. Short rest,
limited,
and when those are gone, you felt like
and short bows.
Yeah,
before,
and
right?
That's right, and you kind of felt like, but that wasn't the reason you didn't play it. Right. No one said, "Oh, I don't want to use a longbow."
Well, I think to be fair, in 2014, it might have been right because in 2014, if you were going to be a ranged character, you were taking sharpshooter and crossbow expert, and you wanted to be. And I mean, you may not have wanted to be, but the mechanics seem to be forcing you to be a hand crossbow user.
That is a very good point. That's an excellent point. Yes. I'm thinking with my 2024 brain, not my 2014 brain. That's totally correct. But the problem was also those 2 shots went really fast, and then you felt like you didn't have a subclass until you had a short rest.
Right.
And this isn't like our action surge where you have 100 other things to fall back on. Here, once those are gone, you might have a 7th level feature that lets you re-roll an attack roll against somebody else, and that's about it.
Which, again, I think in 2014... Well, we'll get into it. So, I think my hot take, I don't know how hot it is kind of similar to yours, maybe. Like, it's definitely better. I think I wish that they would have gone a little further. But it's definitely a step in the right direction, and it might be just enough. I don't know. I'm willing to be convinced. Otherwise, I suppose.
Well, I did note, they have presented the level 10, 15, and 18 features in the worst
Yes.
way possible.
Yes.
And they're way better than they look on paper.
Sure.
So when we get there, I'll explain why they're
Sure.
better than because they look so awful.
Yeah. It's like,
But
oh, one die higher. Yay.
yeah, yeah,
But there's more benefit than you might think at first glance.
yes.
Okay, well let's jump into it here. So Arcane Archer, I'm just going to jump straight to the level 3 features. You get Arcane Archer lore, you get either the Druidcraft or Prestidigitation cantrip with intelligence. I don't think that's changed, but then with the skills, you get Arcana and Nature proficiency now. It used to be one or the other. And I don't think the verbiage before said this, that if you have one of those prepared already, then you can learn something else.
Yeah, no, it didn't. So that's
some
kind
nice
of standard
utility
these days, but I'm
Right.
I'm glad they keep doing it because it was dumb, right? And most DMs let you anyways. But it's nice not to have to house rule it, because
small- Go ahead.
you don't want to say, oh, I'm not going to take the Arcana skill because I'm
level
going to go
3.
Arcane Archer, and I don't want to lose my feature, right?
Yeah. And then let's just jump right into the bread and butter here. The pièce de résistance, the Arcane Shots. Okay, 2 Arcane Shot options of your choice. That's the same, right? And then you get an additional one at 7, 10, 15, and 18. I think that's the same too.
That is the same.
But then each time you learn a new Arcane Shot option, you can replace one.
And I believe you could do that before as well.
I think you're right. Now, it used to be, as you've said, that you can do
no.
Oh, you didn't used to be able to swap them.
No, I think the swapping is new.
Okay, so that's a nice little extra benefit. And, by the time you get to level 7, you might have realized, like, you know what, I'm just not using piercing shot that often or whatever.
Or I'm using it and it feels bad and I don't like it.
Yeah.
Or I'm bored with it.
Yeah. So that's kind of nice. Now, it used to be 2 per short rest, and now it is intelligence modifier per short rest. And that's better, right? But
potentially better.
Yes, exactly. And that's where I get a little bit hung up because, okay, you're a ranged fighter. Obviously, you're going to want a max dex. You don't need to worry about strength, probably. Your secondary stat is con or intelligence, meaning that you're going to have probably a 14 or a 16 at best, right?
Yeah. Well, I would say with an Arcane Archer, it's definitely not con. Definitely not con. You have to have a 16.
A 16 intelligence. So now you're at 3, right?
Yeah.
And hey, that's a 50% increase.
That's a significant increase. Yeah.
It's not nothing. But at the
question
same time,
is, when can you get it to 18?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the question.
Like if you're focusing dexterity, then your first feat's probably going to get you to an 18 dex, and your second feat is going to get you to
level 6, which will be at level 6 because you're a fighter.
Yeah. So thankfully, by the time you're 8, you should be at a capped dexterity, right? Or if you take
by 6.
Well, right. I'm
6?
saying but you might be taking more half feats because there's a lot of good half feats out there, and you're arranged.
Yeah, but if you're on a subclass like this, I would say
you want to get to intelligence.
Level 4, you of course take Mage Slayer. You'd be crazy not to take Mage Slayer.
I want Sharpshooter. I'm an Arcane Archer.
Mage Slayer. And then at level 6, you get your Dexterity to 20 because you got your Mage Slayer. You're good. And then at level 8, you go to Intelligence 18. And level 12, you go to Intelligence 20.
Sure.
And you eventually get to 5.
Yeah.
For short rest.
Or if you're me, you're going, okay, let's see. So I'm going to take 3 levels.
Well, you multi-classed.
I'm going to take
3 levels ago.
I'm going to take 3 levels in Battlesmith. So I can attack with my intelligence, or new Bladesinger. If if the UA sticks, right, they get intelligence attacks too.
With ranged weapons?
Yeah, maybe not. I'd have to relook. Well, I thought it was. I don't think they were forced to do melee. I could be wrong. Regardless, right? Yeah, it's just kind of like it's going to be a little bit better at first, and then it might not be a lot better until much later, depending on if you take Mage Slayer at level 4 or not.
Which you would be a fool not to do.
All right, Mr. Saving Throws. Let's look at the actual Arcane Shot options. So, well, first of all,
Before we do, I just wanted to point out a couple things. So the first thing I'm going to note is that in the player's handbook, we've got 4 fighter subclasses. 2 of them are intelligence based. Then we had Unearthed Arcana. We had a new subclass, Purple Dragon Knight, intelligence based. Now we have the Arcane Archer, intelligence based.
Yeah.
We are beating this same drum a lot.
Sure.
It is also, this subclass is more reliant on intelligence, as we were just discussing, than any of those other 3.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, like, shouldn't we have maybe some wisdom fighters and some charisma fighters? And
sure.
The second thing, you have mentioned it before about switching, allowing different range weapons. So you could have, a musket with your Arcane Archer, or a sling, or a blowgun,
or a dart. Even never mind, because it has to have ammo. It has to have ammunition.
What do you think about that?
I'm fine with it. It seems weird to call it an Arcane Archer in that case.
That's what I was thinking, because you're not an archer, are you?
Yeah. But I think I'm generally fine. I don't think you're gonna. Well, I think guns in D&D don't exist at most tables. I could be wrong. And at the end of the day, the blowgun and the sling are probably going to be subpar, generally speaking. So, you're probably using a crossbow or a longbow, right? And
probably.
In that case, yeah. But you could call it something else. What else would you call it? An arcane.
I'm not sure.
An arcane shot, an arcane shooter. I don't know.
I think it's one of those cases where thematics and mechanics are coming into conflict, because we want to give options.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
We want options. But there is a point where, what is this?
Yeah. An arcane.
Can we even define what this is anymore?
An arcane sharpshooter.
Yeah.
Conflicts with the name of the feat, but anyways.
But we're not taking sharpshooter because we took Mage Slayer.
All right. There's that, and there's the arcane die, right? Which is different now. So now you've got an arcane shot die it starts as a D6, but then it scales, right? A D8 at level 10, a D10 at level 15, and a D12 at level 18. And so that's just an important thing to note. It used to be that almost everything that did damage was like a D6 or 2D6 of damage.
And then it scaled at level 18.
Right. So
and it would go to and it would basically double at level 18.
Yeah. So now you get a smoother level curve, a smoother sort of damage curve. Because a lot of times it's like add 2 times your arcane shot die in damage when blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so instead of 2d6, it's 2d8 or 2d10, etc.
And it's a smarter way to format it, because you just put once what the arcane die is, and then you don't have to write in every single arcane shot.
Right.
It's 2d6 or 1d6 or it's there, and it scales to this at level 18.
Right.
We don't need that because it just saves space.
Yeah.
And same thing with saving throws. The old version told us under each arcane shot how the saving throw was calculated. Yeah. And now they just say, here's how it's done.
This is the save. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at the actual arcane shots themselves.
Sure, and then we'll come back to the rest
shot.
of the features.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one note, as far as I know, they're all the same, right? I don't think they removed any or added any. Am I wrong?
They're all it's the exact same ones. They've been revised.
They've had some tweaks. Yep, they've had some tweaks.
But it's all the same shots. Yes.
Yeah. So we'll just go through them here. Banishing shot. Your magic temporarily sequesters your target in a harmless demi-plane. The creature you hit takes additional psychic damage equal to one roll of your arcane shot die and must succeed on a charisma save or be banished. While banished, they have incapacitated, speed of 0. They need to specify that these days. At the end of its turn, the target reappears in the space it left, or if that space is occupied in the nearest occupied space.
The old one was very similar.
Yeah.
The main difference here is the old version didn't do any extra damage until you got to level 18.
Right.
So this one is doing extra damage right
buff.
away at level 3.
And it was already one of the better options.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Absolutely. And I think this one really benefits from being able to just, I guess I'll probably say this a lot, really benefits from being able to do more than 2 shots per short rest.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because then it's, yeah. I mean, you're a level 11 Arcane Archer, and that's like upcasting Banishment to level 6. Plus, you're doing the damage to all of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, that said, it does only last until the end of their next turn. So,
but no, you can only do it once per turn anyway. So I'm off on that. It's 1 per turn. So it's like 1 banishment per round. And it only lasts a turn, but that's still a lot.
Yeah.
Like, it makes a big difference. They've lost a round.
Right.
And
you can do done a little damage to him as well. A little
I think
more
it's pretty
damage,
good.
I should say. Yeah.
I think it's pretty good. And the extra damage I like because it's no longer they made their save so nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
Now they made their save. Well, at least they took a little bit of damage.
At least you did a little extra damage with your shot. Okay, now you've got Beguiling Shot. You beguile your target. The creature takes psychic damage equal to 2 rolls of your Arcane Shot die. Must succeed on a Wisdom save or have the Charmed condition until the start of your next turn, treating either you or one of your allies within 30 feet your choice as the Charmer. The Charm condition ends early if the Charmer attacks the target, deals damage to it, or forces it to make a save. If I'm not mistaken, I think the only difference here is that you can make yourself thing that
the Charmer. You can be the Charmer.
Yeah.
The other thing I think that this benefits from is because it does 2 dice, which it did before, but because our damage dice scales, it's not 1 die scaling, it's 2 dice scaling.
Right. So you're going to get a little more out of it, especially, at levels 10 and 15.
You're doubling the extra damage is what you're doing. Yeah. It's still one of the weaker ones.
Sure. Not one that you'd probably want to take most of the time. I mean, just because Charmed is nice, but it really just makes it so that they don't want to attack the Charmer, right? If there was some other rider on top of that, maybe it gave disadvantage on attacks or against others, or I don't know.
I don't know, but
it reduces their move speed or something.
The secondary effect on this one just seems a lot worse. And although it does more damage than some of them do, I don't think it's worth it. I mean, you might as well just do
there are better
bursting
options.
Shot.
Yeah. So nice segue. Bursting Shot. You imbue your ammo with explosive energy. Immediately after you deal damage to the creature, your target and each creature within a 10-foot emanation take force damage equal to 2 rolls of your Arcane Shot die. This is basically the same, except for the damage is going to scale better.
Yeah.
Right?
And just like with the Charming Arrow, or the Beguiling Shot, I should say, it's 2 dice. So you're scaling both dice. But unlike any other thing, this is also other creatures potentially being affected as well. So 2 extra damage to one guy, and that guy, and that guy.
Yep.
So the scaling here really ramps up.
Yeah, and 10-foot emanation is not a bad area, right? It's like if you're hitting a medium creature, that's 5 by 5 on a
It's
grid,
like Hail of Thorns without the saving throw.
Yeah.
The issue is just like with Hail of Thorns, there's no excluding your allies.
Right. So you got to be careful to not hit your allies. Now, granted, 2d6 damage isn't a ton. And so, if you're going to do 7 points of damage to a friend, but 7 points of damage to 3 other enemies, and one of them you think only has, 4 or 5 hit points left, well, that's probably worth it. Sorry, ally.
Maybe.
But yeah, that's a pretty good one. Enfeebling Shot. Did you want to say anything else about?
I'm not sure if I consider it pretty good. I still think it's on the weaker side.
Yeah, it's okay. Again, I guess if you're just looking for more damage,
Yeah,
it's
then it's as good as anything.
Better ones, especially because Grasping Shot got changed significantly. But we'll get there in a second. Enfeebling Shot. Your ammo saps your target's strength. The creature you hit takes additional necrotic damage equal to 2 rolls of your Arcane Shot die. Again, then they have to succeed on a con save, or they're poisoned until the end of their next turn. And then whenever a target poisoned in this way hits with an attack roll, it subtracts an amount equal to one of your Arcane Shot die from the total damage of that attack. So this one got some fairly significant changes, right?
This is one of the ones that got a lot of change.
Yeah. Because before it would just do the extra damage and then have the damage that they would do on their attacks. Now poisoned. And while sure, there are still, even in the 2024 Monster Manual, lots of creatures that are immune to the poisoned condition, there are a lot more that aren't. And
there are, except I will point out the old version of this one didn't care if they had the immunity to the poison condition.
That's true. That's true.
So that's a significant downgrade.
Yeah.
But the old version have damage, but they didn't have disadvantage to attack. And poison gives so the debuff you're applying here is worse if it works.
If they're not immune to the poisoned condition and fail their con save.
That's right. Yeah, well, the con save was there anyway, I believe.
Yeah, it was the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, having disadvantage on attacks and reduced damage when they hit. Now, granted,
that's pretty significant.
Reducing their damage by 1d6 is
scaling.
probably worse. That's true, scaling, but probably worse than half damage, right?
This
depending
is again,
on what's hitting you. But
this is again one of those features where I'll point out that the scaling's a lot better than it seems.
Yeah.
Because you go from a d6 to a d8 and you think 1 point of damage. But here it's 2 points of damage and minus 1 point of damage to all the enemy attacks.
Yeah.
So there's 3 different ways that it's benefiting from the bigger die type.
Sure. And then a d10 and then ultimately a d12.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, yeah, they'll still do a lot of damage if they hit, if it's a big CR creature. But I'm just pointing out there's different ways here that the Arcane Shot is being used than just the damage die.
I think this is one of the strongest options that we have. It's a bummer if your target is immune to the poisoned condition and or necrotic damage, but otherwise it's really good and one that you'd want to have in your quiver.
Well, that's it. I think you pick this as one of your picks. It's not a must-have, but it's definitely one I'd gravitate to. But you're fighting something that looks like a ghost. Don't
or a
use
construct, right?
Yeah.
For sure. All right, then there's Grasping Shot, and this is the one that makes me the saddest because this was my favorite.
It was everyone's favorite. In fact, it was the only one. I would literally play an Arcane Archer. This is no joke. And under Arcane Shots, I'd write Grasping Shot, nothing else. And I wouldn't even pick a second shot.
Yeah, because it used to do 2d6 on a hit. It would slow them by 10 feet, and then say 2d6 more if they move even 1 foot. And it didn't have to be, if they use their
force movement worked.
If they were moved, right?
Yeah.
And it worked. And so I think I had a couple of builds. I'll try and link to one of them.
I did an Arcane Archer build as well.
That's like, you hit them with this and then you do something that can force movement, and now they're taking 4d6 extra damage with this one hit, plus they're slowed.
And the idea is you want the rest of the party to push them around.
Yes.
Right. And they take 2d6, 2d6, 2d6.
The warlock
2d6.
with their Eldritch Blast is doing extra damage, and then somebody with the Crusher Feed is doing extra damage. So yeah, it was really nice, and now it's. I mean it.
Well, you haven't read what this one does yet.
Well, right. So your ammunition creates clutching brambles around your target. The creature you hit takes additional slashing damage equal to just 1 roll of your Arcane Shot die. And then they get a strength save, or they are restrained until the start of our next turn. But then they can, just like before, they or an ally can, take an action to make a strength check, athletics check, that is, against our Arcane Shot DC, and then remove the brambles and end the restrained condition on a successful check, which is fantastic.
And I'd wonder, why are you even bothering with the last sentence? You made the duration one less than a round. Less than a round.
Yeah.
Why even bother with a big spiel about the mechanics to get rid of it? Who's going to care about getting rid of it?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine a creature giving up their turn to get rid of a thing.
To get rid of something that's going to be gone before their next turn anyways.
Unless it's like you've got a situation where you're kind of in a boss and minion thing where like a minion doesn't have a very powerful action, and so they're going to free up their boss so that on the boss's turn they can do something. I don't know.
I think they just kept it in there because it was on the old one.
Sure.
But if you really think about it, given that they made the duration crap, there's no point in including provisions for how to get rid of it. They're going to get rid of it just by breathing in and breathing out. It's gone.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, and now, to be fair, the restrained condition is a really great condition to put on an enemy.
Probably not as good as banishing them.
No, that's true. And it does the same amount of damage now, right?
Yeah.
And they get a strength save versus banishment's wisdom?
Charisma.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Why take this? It went from like the best to one of the, if not the worst.
That's the thing. The old one, I get it. I'm a huge proponent, and you talked about this yesterday in your interview with Todd, and I was cheering from the sidelines when you or Todd mentioned it, but he was so right.
Quoting me, yeah.
Yeah, when you make an option so good it's your only option, you don't have options.
Right, it doesn't.
Right, that's a false choice.
Yeah.
So I am all for, even though Grasping Shot was so good, I'm all for rebalancing it, but they didn't balance it.
Yeah.
They made this crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If now, what would be some tweaks here that we could do?
Duration.
Do you think? So make it last until the end of my turn, or is that a minute?
A minute. They get a saving throw at the end of their turn.
Okay.
Yeah. Strength saving throw, or you're restrained. Lasts a minute. At the end of their turn, they get another strength saving throw to get rid of it. Or you can do this other crap.
Yeah, the ally can try and free him.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, that's off. That is off the top of my head, but something like that. The duration is too short.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's not like restrained is as severe as like even stunned or paralyzed or anything. I mean, it's advantage on our attacks against them, and they have disadvantage on their attacks. Plus, they can't move.
And I do kind of feel bad making that suggestion because I just realized that I've basically suggested ensnaring strike without concentration. And without giving advantage on large-sized creatures, and doing damage before the end of the before they fail their saving throw. But ensnaring strike is a terrible spell.
Sure.
And you shouldn't have to balance the rest of the game around it.
A terrible.
You screwed up. You want to fix that. Don't make this bad. Errata ensnaring strike and take away the concentration. Yeah. Right? Yeah, like they should have done in the first place.
Yeah, I think I could get on board with that. It would take it from the best damaging spell, Arcane Shot, to one of the lesser damage options, but that's not why you're using it. It's a solid control option. That said, I just wonder if maybe if it's going to last a minute, maybe they need to say something like the condition ends if you use Grasping Shot on another creature.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Otherwise, you've got three restrained targets for a minute without concentration.
I mean, the other opportunity, or the other thing you could do to balance this is keep it exactly the same, except remove the saving throw. You hit, you're restrained for this much time.
Yeah, and even then, I'd say till the end of our next turn, so that I can at least have advantage on my attacks against them on my next turn.
That's true.
Give me that. But no save. Yeah, I like that.
I don't know. I'm in for looking at features that currently provide extra die rolls and seeing if there's ways that you could remove some of those die rolls and just rebalance them.
Sure.
Because there's
Not slowing the game down.
a lot of slowing the game down to do die rolls.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of opportunity in the game to, okay, maybe bring it down a notch, but no saving throw, or those kinds of things.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. We got 3 left still. Piercing shot. You give your ammunition an ethereal quality when you use this option. You don't make an attack roll for the attack. Instead, the ammo shoots forward in a 30-foot line that's 1 foot wide. Originating from you, then it vanishes. The line ignores cover. As the ammo phases through solid objects, each creature in the line must make a dex save. On a failed save, they take damage as if it were hit, plus additional piercing damage equal to 2 rolls of your arcane shot die and half on a save. This is essentially the same, I believe, except for that we get better scaling on it, right?
We get better scaling. There's one thing that I always found a little confusing about the old version, and I think I still find it confusing. And that is, so let's say were you playing the old one with the old rules, and we had the -5 +10 from sharpshooter. Do we get we give that up? Maybe
in
I
Baldur's
guess so.
Gate 3, no. Take a drink.
Okay.
For those playing the game at home.
All right. And in this case, what about Great Weapon Master?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, because it does say that
it's part of the attack action.
Yeah.
Right? But it's not an attack.
Takes damage as if it were hit.
But it says as if it were hit.
Right.
So I think it probably does.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not sure. And that's
and if it does, then it's quite good, I think, right?
Yes, I would agree. It's a lot better if it does.
If it doesn't, it's kind of on the weaker side, I think.
It says when you hit a creature with a weapon that has the heavy property as part of the attack action on your turn, you can cause the weapon to deal extra damage to the target. The extra damage equals your proficiency bonus. I think that lines up.
See, I don't know. I almost feel like I think I would probably say no, rules as written, because you didn't hit them. It's as if you hit them, which might be enough to say.
And that's a problem.
Yeah,
we shouldn't have to debate it.
Yeah,
right. So that's what they need to fix. Just decide whether it applies or not.
They're hit, and
make it clear.
Yeah. Or maybe just it's a don't say as if they were hit. Just say on a failed save, they take damage equal to your weapon plus your ability modifier plus 2 rolls of your arcane shot die or whatever.
Yeah. But I agree. I think this is definitely a lot better if you can apply something like Great Weapon Master to it, or anything else that applies to your hits. Right.
And I mean, including, I don't know what,
sneak attack.
Sure. Or even, like I'm thinking of magic weapons, like a flame tongue, because flame tongue can be on ranged weapons now, right? It's not just swords.
I think so. Yeah.
Anyways, so I guess the question is, if you're wanting to do multi-target damage, do you do this or bursting arrow? And it depends. Obviously, it's the same question as fireball versus lightning bolt.
I think the big thing about piercing shot is that it goes through objects.
Yeah,
right. That's the appeal here.
And you're hitting. You're probably doing more damage to multiple enemies if you're hitting multiple enemies with it, because you're getting your weapon, you're getting your ability score modifier, and it's one. Is it one roll? It's just one? No, two rolls. So yeah.
But they need to change. I hope they do. They don't need to, because they didn't last time. But a creature takes damage as if it were hit needs clarification.
Yeah.
Are we counting this as an attack?
You hit each creature, or they take damage equal to blah blah blah.
Yeah, right? I don't know. But something that's not this, because it.
Yeah.
Or we shouldn't have to debate whether it does or it doesn't.
Right. Okay, seeking shot. You grant your ammunition the ability to seek out a target. When you use this option, you don't make an attack roll for the attack. Instead, choose one creature you have seen in the last minute. The ammo flies toward the creature, moving around corners if necessary, ignoring half and three-quarters cover. You know, again, if they're invisible, this will work as long as you've seen them within the last minute, right? If they're within your weapon's long range, then they have to make a dex save. Otherwise, the ammo disappears after traveling as far as it can. On a failed save, the target takes damage as if it were hit, again, plus additional force damage equal to 2 rolls of your arcane shot die, and you learn the target's current location. On a successful save, the target takes half as much damage only. This is largely the same, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think they need to switch it.
Yeah.
The old version did an additional die of damage.
Oh, okay. So this is saying 2 rolls of arcane shot. Did it used to be like 3d6?
No, it was 1.
Oh,
1d6.
sorry. So we've gotten better. I misunderstood what you were saying.
But I'm left with all kinds of questions here that still are not answered. Like, for example, here's one. Let's say there's a wall right up here, and I am completely behind the wall, 100% behind the wall. But there's the corner here. Can you shoot at me?
Did I see you in the last minute?
Yeah.
I say yeah.
But it says you only ignore half cover and 3/4 cover. It doesn't say you ignore full cover.
That's true. Though it does say it moves around corners if necessary.
It does. Yes, it does. Yeah, it does. And same thing. When it says as if it were hit, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Here's a question for you. So let's say I'm a slinger. Because I decided I didn't want to play an arcane archer. I wanted to play an arcane slinger.
Arcane slinger.
So I've got a sling, and I've got the crusher feat. And I'm the same guy, and I've moved behind the corner.
Yeah.
And I flip it at him, and it goes around and hits him from the side, and it's treated as if he was hit. Can I pull him out from the cover?
Yeah. I mean, Crusher says you can move him towards you or away from you, right?
Any direction with Crusher. And
you're right. Duh. You can even move them up in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think rules is written. Yeah. But
or no. It depends how you define as if it were hit.
Yeah, that's true.
Because normally it only works with an attack.
Right. And I was going to say this one specifically says you don't make an attack roll for the attack.
Yeah. Yep. But you treat it as if they were hit.
Right.
By an attack presumed? Like, is that implied language?
Sure.
So I don't know. Yeah. The other thing is, if this is a seeking shot that never misses its target, why are we giving it a dex save?
Yeah.
Why not just have it hit?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like,
hitting with an arrow.
They do take half damage, which is nice. But...
just think about this. What if it just said, it goes around corners, ignoring, and then it says, and it hits the target and deals the damage.
Right.
Is that
super?
Is that a problem?
Right.
Yeah.
You get probably 2 or 3 at least at this level of them per short rest.
And maybe make it 1 roll of your arcane shot die.
But no, right? Yeah, then you don't need to worry about half damage.
Yeah.
But
save
the
a roll.
Is slightly reduced.
It's a seeking shot. It's supposed to always find its target, right? Why are they getting a dex save?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't hate that idea.
Or make it it should just hit. I was about to say or make it an attack roll, but no, it should just hit. That's the whole idea.
And again, speaking of, Baldur's Gate 3, it works a lot better in that game in that it does just automatically hit them no matter what, and then does some other cool stuff too. Okay, last one, Shadow Shot. Your magic occludes your foe's vision with shadows. The creature you hit takes additional psychic damage equal to 1 roll of your arcane shot die, and it must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or have the blinded condition until the end of its next turn. Is this the same? I feel like this is the same. No, it's 2D.
It is not the same.
2d6.
No, the big difference is the old one didn't blind them.
Right. It
reduced their vision to 5 feet.
Farther than 5 feet away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so blinded is nice. It's less damage, but I think I'd give up a d6
I think it's better.
damage for blinded.
I think it's better.
Yeah,
The
of course.
being able to take their sight completely away instead of
Yeah,
limiting it, I think it's
yeah,
better.
yeah. Because if you can still see within 5 feet, well, most enemies are melee. They might be in melee range already, anyways, right? And
Yeah.
so it doesn't really have much of a negative impact on them. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so generally and overall, I think the Arcane Shots got. If I had to, say were these buffed or nerfed, generally speaking, little buffed, I think, but some not
I
so
think I
much.
think it's I think it's debatable,
Yeah,
because it's debatable, but I do think they're better balanced
sure,
than they were,
sure.
because
There's
I'm
there's
not
choices now.
sure what choices I would make with my arcane shot options now, but
Yeah,
I'd write more than one on my character sheet for sure.
and it probably wouldn't be grasping shot as as
In
as
its current
written.
in
Yeah,
its current form, that one I think is the weakest one. I
yeah,
think
yeah. Maybe
definitely
maybe
among the
beguiling shot,
weakest.
but yeah,
Maybe,
among the
yeah,
weakest.
maybe beguiling shot, but
Yeah,
it's not super clear anymore, right? Like
sure.
it's not just crystal. One's 100 times better than all the others.
Yeah,
So I think that is good for the subclass,
yeah,
especially considering that we're getting more uses, and those uses also scale faster, right?
hmm,
We haven't talked about the rest of the subclass features, but we get the ability to get shots back earlier on. So I'm okay with them not all getting a huge buff
yeah,
because we're getting more. What they really needed was better balance, which they've
yeah,
gotten.
yeah.
But I do think there's still a little bit of weird wording
Sure.
where I'm not sure how it's supposed to work,
Let's
and
clean up some wording. Let's
and
ease up
and
on the grasping shot nerf a little bit.
yeah,
Give beguiling shot a little love.
but not
And maybe,
bad. I think
yeah,
I think
it's better.
overall, I want to play this subclass.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure. All right, let's quickly go over just the level 7 stuff, and then the rest of it'll be not much to talk about.
yeah,
So level 7, curving shot, similar to what they had before. You learn how to direct an errant shot toward a new target if you make an attack roll with a weapon with the ammunition property and miss. As a bonus action, immediately after the attack, you can make an extra attack with the same weapon against a different target that you can see that is within the weapon's long range, and that isn't behind total cover, and it doesn't require ammunition. It's a lot of words to essentially say you can take your
It-
shot and make it hit somebody else with a bonus
basically,
action.
basically.
And
Mechanically, it's the same as the
yeah,
old curving shot, except they've done a lot of clarification here, and it's odd. It's so odd that they've done so much clarification here when people weren't confused about this one.
right, right.
And then we have the arcane shots where people were confused, and those were not
They're still
clarified.
confused. Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean,
extra clarification. I don't mind. I just think it's in it. They misplaced it a little bit.
yeah. It's a decent feature.
Yeah.
In the old Arcane Archer, I mean, maybe in particular it was good because it used to be, like I said at the beginning, right? That like, well, the best ranged characters were the hand crossbow users, and then you were using a bonus action for an extra attack. As an Arcane Archer, you couldn't do that, and so this was like, well, at least I can maybe get a weaponized
Use my bonus
action.
action to make an attack. Yeah.
Yeah. And now, that hand crossbow thing doesn't really exist anymore, though you could dual wield hand crossbows and get a bonus action attack with it if you wanted. But anyways, the point is it's decent. And then better yet, we get Ever Ready Shot at level 7 as well, which says that when you roll initiative and have no uses of Arcane Shot left, you regain one expended use of it, which we didn't used to get until, what was it, like level 15 or something?
Yeah. It was a level 15 feature in the old subclass, so it's now level
Right.
7.
Right.
So that's moved up a lot.
Yeah,
Right.
and
That's
that
even moved up more
feels
than reliable talent did for the rogue.
yeah.
Like even more than that.
That feels
I don't.
really good to me.
Yeah, but I still I have a pet peeve for features that are when you're out of this resource, get one back.
You get one.
And I can't help but think of like the monk and how they ended up dealing with focus points. And what they could do here is they could say once per long rest, when you roll initiative, you can regain all your arcane shot uses.
Yeah, I agree. Getting one, like you have to have 0 to benefit.
You have to be out. Yeah.
Right?
Too bad you have lame. One. You don't get it.
even if they wanted to just say you can get one back, right? I think it's much better to go the monk route and say, hey, you can get them all back. Especially since we probably only have 3 or maybe 4, right?
Yeah, and just once, right? Yeah. Because I get how if they want to, they're thinking about abuse. Right, so if you have one back, whether you're out or not, they're thinking, well, whatever, the bag of rats, right?
Sure.
Even though they've talked about in the DM guide about how that exact issue, nevertheless, they want to avoid making features that feed into that
exploitable.
But I do think the monk fix for the focus point thing was elegant.
Yeah,
once per long rest, you roll initiative. Boom, you got them all.
Yeah, I agree. And in fact, and so maybe almost to just summarize, because at level 10, Arcane Shot becomes a D8. At level 15, it becomes a D10. At level 12, it becomes at level 18, it becomes a D12. And that scaling is nice. And as you know, you've pointed out, like it's probably better than it looks on paper, right?
Yeah, because it's often more than one die. And it also includes things beyond just damage.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so. And it's a smooth. The old one, you got nothing until you got to level 18.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah.
And this one now, it's more. It makes more sense. I'm good with that.
I think for me, the thing that
and also. I forgot to mention this because, as I said, I think the way they formatted it makes them look worse. And that's because all they would need to do is say at level 10, your arcane die becomes a D8 and you gain 1 additional arcane shot. Level 15, your arcane die becomes a D10 and you get 1 additional arcane shot. Level 15, level 18.
I like that. I just feel like 10, 15, and 18, even though, there is some better scaling and, it does affect lots of things in your arcane shot, not just damage necessarily. I still want more at those levels. And maybe
you're getting it, but they just the problem is they hit it under level 3.
Sure, because they say
right? Because they say, you get another one at 7, 10, 15, and 18. But then they don't say it at level 7, 10, so 15, and 18. And you look at this and you go, bad. Is this all I get?
Yeah.
No, you also get something else, but they talked about it before.
I wish that they would have gone just one step further. I think the thing that makes me feel a little like meh about the subclass overall is I want something different, something new, something more. So like all the arcane shots are the same. Granted, they've been tweaked, some of them more than others. But I want like at level 10, kind of like with the rogue's new cunning action, right? Give me just like 1 or 2 new, maybe slightly more powerful arcane shot options at 10, at 15,
well,
at 18.
Here's my issue with that. So you take those and then you use those all the time.
Sure.
And so now instead of having 10 options, you have 2 options.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you're right. But you could even say, you can add these to your potential arcane shot options, but you can only use them once per long rest or once per short rest or something like that. So that it just feels like, I don't know, just a little more exciting, right? Instead of just like, I go from a D6 to a D8 and I get 1 more use, which is nice, but it's just a little boring, I guess. You know what I mean? And granted, you're getting other things from your class and et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. I just want a little more. And I don't want them to just take the existing ones and put them behind a wall at 10,
Here's
15, and
here's what
18.
here's one thing they could do. Instead of having the shots be based on your intelligence modifier, have them be 2 per short rest. Level 7, they're 3 per short rest. Level 10, they're 4 per short rest. Level 15, they're 5 per short rest. Level 18, if you take your turn and take the attack action, you can do an arcane shot, no cost required.
I prefer that because it lets me think about, because like I want to be an archer first, and I want to get feats and stuff that make me a better archer, right?
Yeah.
I want to take sharpshooter. I want to have the option to use a heavy crossbow if I really want the push mastery, right? And that means I'm going to need crossbow expert. Like, so instead, sort of having to go, well, but I need intelligence or else I'm hardly going to be able to use this.
I'm playing a fighter archer in a one shot on Saturday. Tomorrow. That's tomorrow. Tomorrow. And I took sharpshooter and mage slayer and poisoner, right, to get my dexterity up to 20. Can't do that with this subclass. Can't afford it. Yeah.
And like, well, yeah. And I think your point about ever ready shot is a really good one, and I think you could probably even move it up further. I know we already went from 15 to 7. That's a big jump, but I mean, think about monks, right? Getting their key or focus recovery right at level 2 or 3, no 2. Maybe you make this a level 3 feature. That's a lot of level 3 features.
But if you made the arcane shots 2 per short rest scaling rather than intelligence modifier, then you've reduced your number of shots, potential shots at level 3. So then giving them back one extra time is not such a big deal. Yeah. We just fixed it. Good job, Colby.
Wizards, listening? Yeah, in fact, why don't we sign off with this? And we should do this on every video. Everybody, make sure that you go and give feedback. And fill out the survey. Fill out the survey. That's we've been repeatedly told that is the best way for us to give them feedback on these unearthed arcanas. So let's go fill out the survey and make sure that they know what we think. Okay, that was a long one. The rest of them shouldn't take this long, hopefully. But thanks.
I don't think they will.
Thanks for joining me, Chris, as always, and thanks for everybody for watching. Make sure you check out the other half of this series on Chris's channel. Of course, I'll link to it in the video description.
We'll be back with the tattooed warrior monk tomorrow. So good, so good, yeah.
No, don't take me back to the time when monks got the shaft. Okay, anyways, you guys are awesome. See you later.
All right. Okay. End of video 2.
Yes. Oof. This is going to take all day.
We're only what, hour and a half in? No problem.
Yeah. But the rest of these should go more quickly, right?
I think this one might take a little bit longer because we're going to have to rant for a bit.